So the purpose of this class is to be able to use the system at the end of the class. That's one of the purposes of the class. And being a very practical class and a very practical approach is kind of what I do. I'll tell you other things as we go along. It's a hands-on class and it's a hands-on technique, and it's a very practical technique and it's a very technical technique, almost like a method. But at the same time, it's really, really important. I just
sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Just came from an amazing lecture this morning by Lori, going back to the roots of Chinese medicine in terms of the bigger view of the Tao and the philosophy and the mystics of Chinese medicine is highly important in your daily life and your daily practice as well. So don't be fooled by the fact that I'll be talking to you guys about research and clinical trials and practical stuff. I still do my meditation and Qigong, and I think that, and Tai Chi like in the mornings, and I think that this bond, this connection to the medicine is so important because it makes you be part of it or you're alive inside of you. So I really encourage people to get connected to this side of Chinese medicine. Now, most of you are practitioners. You've probably been practicing for a while. My job will be to try to convey and teach you this system. Your job will be to try to keep an open mind and a flexible thought. And the reason is because I know that for a lot of practitioners, since we're going to do distal acupuncture, this may be a little bit foreign. The concept of doing not needling almost at all, at least out in the initial treatment series, near where the pain is or the limitation is a bit of a difficult concept, especially if you've been used to that. So please keep an open mind and flexible thought, and you'll see that there's a lot of logic of why we do this the way we do this, and I will explain this. I don't know if I want to try this bold thing. I've taught this class, the seminar, the 2-day seminar at least 40 times in Israel and all over Europe. And so it's always different. I never teach the same way. I can't. It's something with my personality. I'm contemplating of doing something bold, which is to start with a demonstration before we do anything. I've never done that before. But I will wait 1 or 2 slides and get warmed up, and then we'll do it. And I will tell you this. This meridian wave system is based on these key elements.
You know, he's crap. Why are you here?
We're good friends. So the key elements here would be to identify the correct channel or channels involved in what you're trying to treat. And then this is the system is very objective. You want to assess your progress as you go. We're looking for changes almost instantly. And I know people always ask me, is this related to Dr. Tan's system? I always get that question. No, it's not related to Dr. Tan's system. In fact, I did study with Dr. Tan because he's originally from San Diego. I was in San Francisco. I took all his courses. It's totally not the same thing. It's a very different thing. It's based in classical TCM channel theory, and I think it works as good as Tan. We will be using and activating Jingwell points, and we'll talk about the importance of these points as key points for really strongly moving matter and energy, chi and blood. Hi, Lori. Come on in. Yeah? I just talked about your lecture, so you missed that part. And we'll talk about distal needling. By the way, please excuse my typing and spelling errors that will come up here and there. I've had some more embarrassing ones in the past. When we get there, I'll tell you. But please excuse me for that. So we'll talk about distal needling of the affected channels and why we use distal needling and what's the effect of distal acupuncture. And also addressing the underlying condition, because we always want to see the whole big picture in terms of Chinese medicine, in terms of differential diagnosis. And then repeatedly assessing the progress. And in a nutshell, basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to activate this or tap into this resonance or this wave, this channel energy or channel chi wave, and by initiating like a wave response and then amplifying and propagating this wave, and then by assessing immediately how we're doing in terms of progress. Okay, so in a nutshell, this is what we're doing. Okay, so the 3 pillars of Chinese medicine. Well, Chinese medicine is, well, let's just backtrack a bit. Chinese medicine stems from the Taoist philosophy. And, but do you have markers? No? That probably didn't prepare for me. I can wait a little bit, but sometime I will definitely need them. Yeah. About this. Yes. So, so Chinese medicine stems from a much larger view of a philosophical thought, which is called the Tao, or Taoism, which is based basically on observation. The Taoist sages were observing nature and the phenomena of nature, and the flux of nature, and the movement of nature, and the repetition of processes of the nature, and they viewed us, human beings, as part of nature and not a separate entity. So the rules that govern, or the rules that flow in nature, are rules that apply also for human beings. And Lao Tzu tells us in the Tao Te Ching, or the Book of Tao, about how in the beginning, before times, there was disorder. And then the order started by this first division, this first separation between yin and yang, which is defined as heaven and earth. Okay? And this duality of heaven and earth, this polarity of heaven and earth, this differences in these energies, is basically what is still and always is the potential of becoming of chi and the life and the energy of all the processes. So this division to 3, yin yang, and what we call the S line between them, and this polarity, it also applies to Chinese medicine, because Chinese medicine talks about, in general, on the one hand we have the yin yang and 5 element theory, and yin yang and the 5 element theories are just theories which describe phenomena of the universe, including the human body. It's basically a code of how things work, a way to describe how things work, everything. Okay, talks a lot about the outer world. Okay, yin and yang, the sun and the moon, the earth and the heaven. Okay, the cycles of the seasons. It talks in the classics actually. The language of description and the classics uses yin and yang and 5 element theory as that's the language. And the subject of discussion in the classics is the Zhang Fu. Okay, Zhang Fu, the internal organs, the organs that create, produce, move, circulate, talk about the inner world or the inner environment of the human body, which also are governed, or I shouldn't say governed, which also the yin and yang and 5 elements theory also apply, of course, to the inner world, because they apply everywhere. And that's many of the schools in China and out of China focus during Chinese medicine studies on these 2 elements: the yin yang and 5 element theory. Some also do the stems and branches, and the Zhang Fu theory. But the discussion on the connecting pathway, meridian theory, or channel theory, is normally limited in acupuncture schools, and I won't go into why. There's an explanation to that, both historically. But meridian theory or channel theory is basically a connecting pathway, which kind connects between the outer world and the inner world, and the abilitates of it, gives the ability of the outer forces to work inside the inner body. And we'll discuss this a lot today. So we're going from big to small. And like I said, yin and yang are a philosophy, a basic code of the universe. It's a language. I call this the mathematical code of phenomena in the universe. Because you can basically, in sciences, behind every formula, maybe chemistry or in physics, there's math. Right? So the basic code, the mathematical code of natural phenomena, is the yin and yang. And the Zhang Fu theory is the subject of discussion, like we mentioned, the language in the classics, the internal organs that create, like we said, and preserve the substances. And this creation is based on two things: the workings of the inner body, but also the effects of the outer body, of the outer world on the body. May it be climate, may it be emotional, may it be social. The effects of the outer world and the workings of the inner world is what allows the Zhang Fu to create. Okay, I call this the biological code of the human body. Biology is the Zhang Fu, right? And in between the biology and the math, we have the meridian channel network, which is a live network that binds this yin and yang, this outer and inner, which forms the basis of what we call holistic medicine. Everything is connected. Okay, and we'll discuss that today. That holistic medicine and everything is connected is way beyond the cliche. You'll see that classical Chinese medicine really portrayed this in quite detail, and we will go into that in a minute. So this web of channels is the basis of this concept. So meridians, I guess, two take-home messages which are huge to take, she should be taken right away, is the meridians are an integral part of the organs, and they're physiologically active. They're not hollow pipes for qi and blood to flow. They're basically part of the physiology of the body. That's the first thing to understand, and again, in a minute we'll see how. So I call this the physics and chemistry codes or laws of the processes in the human body. Because if we have math here and biology here, we still need biochemistry and chemistry of the cells and the enzymes. And in a way, meridians allow that, the meridian system, the function. So, when we talk about channel theory, we talk about two things. We talk about primary channels and collateral flow. Okay. So we have the Jing, which are the primary channels. How many do we have? How many primary channels do we have? 12, right? Okay. And then we have collateral flow. Okay. Now there's two ways to look at what is called luo or collateral flow. The narrow view is the luo connecting channels. Okay. But the more broad view is all the connecting channels which are not the primary channels. So we have 16 major luo, we have minute collateral, superficial luo, blood clot, and so on and so forth. But when we say Jing or 12 primary, you'll see that later on, we'll talk about that, these 12 primary are actually organized for physiology of the human body as a set of 6 pairs, okay, which we call the 6 levels of the Ta Yang, the Xiao Yang, Yang Ming, the Tai Yin, Zhui Yin, and Xiao Yin. Okay. And this is crucial for your understanding of what we're doing today, because these pairs is how we work in this system. It's not very difficult, but now when we talk about the qi in the body, we have all the different qi, like we have all the different spirits, okay? But in general, we have organ qi, which is the qi of what the organs are producing, okay? Spleen qi, supposed to do the T&T transportation transformation, the ascending and dispersing, ascending of spleen qi, dispersing, and also a little bit of descending of moisture from the lungs, okay? And we have the qi of the heart, which has to do with heart yang and chest, the heart being able to contract and move blood all over the body. So that's the organ chi. Channel chi is the channel, is the chi that flows through the channel. Okay, and here we have again two theories that discuss the flow of this channel chi. The first one is a sequential flow of channel chi from lung to large intestine to stomach to spleen to heart, small intestine, all the way back to the liver. Okay, but then we also have another theory which is called the five shu theory, which talks about how this is Jing well, and this is He Si. I hope you can see this, right? Talks about how this chi starts in the well, the small points, and then goes from Jing well, and then to Yin Spring, and then to Shu Stream, and then to He River, and then to He Si points. Basically saying that the chi starts to flow here in the Jing well points, and it progressively gets stronger and bigger, and then it hits the He Si points, and then the channel dives deeper to start going towards the organ that it meets. Okay. Again, I don't have time to explain why these two theories don't contradict each other. But in this really short, like again, we're trying to squeeze I guess that's a 2-day class to a 4-hour session. Let's talk a little bit about basics. So the channels, they work as a network. And this network has two distinct traits. On the one hand, the channel serves as a pathway, and this pathway is this pathway of flow of vital substances, the chi, the blood, the body fluids, but also the flow of pathogens, right? They also go through the channels. So we have this network that works as a pathway, but at the same time, the channels also constantly convey information about what's going inside and how we react to the outside world. Okay? So I don't know if this is new to you or not, but if I walk into this room and it's much colder than it is outside, the body needs to respond. Now these what we call temperature receptors in the Western perspective are tips of channels and that respond and tell my body what to do. And again, we'll see that in a minute. It's very particular to each climate resonates with a different channel. So this information about what's going on inside the body in terms of physiology and in terms of pathology is constantly in this play. Let me ask you a question. What are the 6 chi? Anyone heard this term before? The 6 chi. Who's going to be brave enough to be the first one to raise their hand? Yeah, all the way down the back. I see you want to say something. No. So what are the 6 chi? Do you have an idea?
Yuan chi.
No, that's different. That's actually good. Normally the question is, the answer that I get is the 6 chi are the 6 evil chi, meaning wind, damp, heat, summer damp heat, and so on and so forth. The fact that you're not saying that is actually good because it's wrong. Okay? The 6 chi are not the 6 evil chi, they're 6 climates. And these are, well, are they just evil? Apparently no. Are they useful? Are they necessary? So wind, heat, cold, dryness, dampness, and fire are all climates of the outer world, which are necessary for correct function and balance in the inner world. Okay? They may become pathological, or they tend to become pathological in certain conditions, but in general, they're physiology before they are pathology. So the 6 chi are foundational climates of the outer world that also apply in the inner world. So we definitely need a certain amount of dampness in the body. We need a certain amount of dryness in the body. We need a certain amount of heating ability, and at the same time we need the ability of cooling. Okay? And let's give some clinical examples. For example, do you know stomach and spleen, they have opposite climates, right? So the spleen and its environment work with dampness, okay? I'm not saying dampness in a pathological view, dampness as in nutritional. for you to be able to do the TNT, transformation, transportation, or breakdown of foods, for them to move into the blood, it needs to be a certain, well, the yin chi, or the nutritive chi, is chi of nutritional dampness, okay? That's the way it acts. Now, when it becomes a pathology, when there's too much dampness, or when the transformation and transportation are not working, or if you just had a pint of, I don't know, vanilla Haagen-Dazs, which is a huge load of cold and dampness, and your spleen can't transport and transform it, then you have accumulation of pathological dampness. But the spleen's function is in the realm of dampness. The large intestine, or the stomach, on the other hand, works with dryness. Stomach needs to, we say, warming and ripening of food. This warming function is based on heat and drying. So spleen and stomach, which are two opposite yin and yang pairs, which are like the yang, ming, and the tai yin, we'll talk about in a minute, they work with a climate of dryness and dampness, and they balance each other. So when we need the stomach 36 for spleen chi deficiency diarrhea, we're basically moving dryness from the yang, ming stomach channel to the spleen channel and then to the organ to counteract this dampness diarrhea. Okay? So this play of the climates is crucial. Nope. So we say the 6G convey the external influences into the internal environment to create inner balance and harmony. So in this triad of heaven, earth, and man, we have man as part of nature, and the channels as the connecting pathway or connecting avenues to heaven energies as well as earth energies. And anybody who practices Tai Chi or Qigong uses this a lot, because a lot of the exercises do exactly that. Try to facilitate the flux or flow. By the way, from a Taoist perspective, in terms of what our purpose in life is, I've heard this from Jeffy Yuen. If you ever get a chance to hear Jeffy Yuen, I would highly recommend that. Taoist priest comes to Ireland, I think, every year. But from a Taoist perspective, we have two purposes in this life. The first one is to finish unsolved business from previous rounds. But the second one is to facilitate the flow of heaven chi to earth chi for helping each other. Okay, so you're in the right profession. Okay, so the conduction of these 6 climates into the organs is basically done by the channels. Okay, and here we're getting a little bit more technical. If we look at this as a channel, or a funnel, you can say that each channel has 2 ends. The inner ends, which eventually goes to the organs, and the outer end, which counteracts with the outer world. Okay? And in fact, you know that. Let me ask you a clinical question. When your patient has wind cold, can someone say what the main symptoms of wind cold are? Someone pray.
Runny nose.
Runny nose.
Shivering.
Shivering.
Occipital headache.
Oh, occipital headache. Thank you for that. What's your name?
Martin.
Martin, thanks for that. Okay, occipital headache. What else?
Pains that move around.
What's that?
Aches and pains that move around.
Aches and pains not necessarily move around, because when it's wind cold, then normally it's kind of more stuck in a certain area, right? So occipital headache, sometimes also upper shoulder blade pains or neck stiffness and so on and so forth. So why occipital headache? Why there? Do you know? Which channels right up here? Taiyang. So let's think of the logic here. When we're hit by cold, we have constriction in the Taiyang system. This implies something about the relation of this Taiyang system to cold. And the function of the Taiyang system is to bring heat to the outer surface of the body. So Taiyang is small intestine and bladder. Okay? The small intestine and bladder channels which is a layer. Their outer function would be to bring heat to the surface. They do two things, in fact. Taiyang brings heat to the outer surface and controls and governs the pores. This is the one place where we're used to thinking about the lungs as controlling the pores. I think that's what you taught in school. I'm not sure. But the lungs produce the wei qi. The wei qi is the heat that goes all the way up to the surface to counteract this cold. And the Taiyang channel is the channel that would do two things: bring heat up to counteract this cold, and control the pores to either open the pores if you want to sweat the cold out, or close the pores if your patient doesn't have enough qi to stop the cold from coming in. So what you should be looking for when you think your patient has wind cold, you should palpate small intestine 4, which is right here. Okay? And most of the cases, if it's wind cold, you'll see that it's really tender. Okay? And you would probably need to needle this point because this is a source point of the Taiyang. And it really, so my treatment for Taiyang cold would be, of course, release the surface with Li4 and lung 7 and bring some qi up with stomach 36. But you need to do Taiyang points. You need to do like you do moving cupping or gua sha on the back to open the back. But you need also to bring the heat. So small intestine 4 and bladder 64 would kill a common cold if you caught it in the 24 hours or before it even becomes an issue. Seriously, it's that good. Okay. So this is just one example of the external function of the channel. So each channel basically has an external function which serves as a receptor or regulator of the outer climates. It will let the exterior in if needed. It will push the exterior away. It will regulate it. And then it goes, the inner part is the part that regulates the pathways to and from the organs. Regulating the organ activity, connecting to all internal organs, making the connections between the internal organs, constantly getting information about what's going on. Okay. So now you know that basically channels have an outer end and an inner end, and the outer end is what connects us to the universe in terms of climates. Now, this affinity to the climates is quite specific. The 6-channel theory, and you can see here the 6 channels, which are called the Taiyang, Shaoyang, Yangling, Taiyang, Shaoyang, and Jui. Each resonate with a specific channel. Now, I want to step back and say just one more thing. When we say we have 12 primary channels, okay, these 12 primary channels are described out here as 6 pairs of primary channels. Okay? But basically, small intestine and bladder are the same channel. Okay? They're the same channel. In fact, the Chinese name for these channels would be hand Taiyang or foot Taiyang. And at the end of the sentence, they would say hand Taiyang, small intestine channel, versus foot Taiyang, bladder channel. But the Taiyang is the first thing. Okay? The Taiyang that presents on the hand and connects to the small intestine, the Taiyang that presents on the foot and connects to the bladder. But the channel itself is Taiyang. And it's really important to keep that in mind. You have actually, basically, we have 6 primary channels which are split to 2. Okay? This is really important. Physiologically, this is how the body works. The lung and the spleen, which are the Taiyin channel. Okay, maybe in the next slide. Yeah, that's better because you can see the breakdown. Okay? The lung and spleen, we don't have a laser pointer, do we? No, that's right. The lung and spleen work together. They're called the Taiyin layer, the first layer of the, and they work together. Why do? Because they're the producers of qi. How do we produce energy? Okay? We produce energy from food and drink, and from oxygenation of this food and drink, right? So the air from the body, and the food from the mouth, the air from the lungs, and the food of the spleen produce vital, ongoing energy. I'm not talking about prenatal energies; those are different energies. And this is why lung and spleen are just one system. It's the system that's responsible for producing qi, or daily qi, I should say, or postnatal qi. Okay? And you'll see that the system And the same. So, the take-home message so far is this: start thinking about the way the body works in terms of channels in this 6 pairs of physiologically interactive channels. Okay. Now, tomorrow we're going to dive much deeper into that. If you want to come to our class, we're going to talk about Qi Hua theory, and you'll see how these channels work together. Okay, but let me I'll give just this one example that I just mentioned before. So if you look about this system, the Yang Ming, which is large intestine and stomach, and the Tai Yin, you see the climates are dryness and dampness. Okay, so these 2 systems work together. The stomach ripens, warms food for the spleen to transport and transform, the TAT. Okay. But it also balances the dampness and the dryness. Like I said, this is why you use stomach 36 for spleen Qi deficiency diarrhea. And you're using a He point, which is a point that we mentioned where, see these points, this is a huge junction of Qi. Okay? So these points are very influential points. They're near the elbows, near the knees, just before the channel dives in. It's like the biggest, what do you call it, traffic light. Or the Qi, or the what do you call the cop, the traffic director. Okay, so these points have a strong influence on how this channel Qi works. And if you're using stomach 36, which is a He point, that's a He point on the channel that talks about dryness. So it helps to balance the dryness. Again, this dryness counteracts excess dampness of the spleen. So what I'm trying to say is this: we have these we have these layers. These layers are used, or the body is organized in these layers or functional units, lung and spleen, large intestine and stomach. And again, we can go on to each one of these channels. We'll do that tomorrow and understand how it. For example, large intestine and spleen and stomach, the Yang Ming, they both have a descending quality. Okay. The stomach descends food, the large intestine descends. Okay, warming and drying, both of them do that. Okay, again, we'll go into that tomorrow if you want to come. The idea is to understand and to realize that the outer part of the meridian, which connects with the outer world, which connects with the specific climate, is really specific. Each meridian has a specific energetical quality, channel Qi, or wave resonance. By the way, what do you do? Let's give you two examples. Just came back from New York, walking downtown New York to get these wind gusts. You know, these wind in between the buildings, wind gusts. Okay. Now, what would be our instinct if we're hit by really cold wind in terms of the body posture? Will we do this? No, we'll probably do this, right? So we're turning our back to the wind and the cold and the wind. And the reason is because the Tai-Yang, that's where the heat is. That's where the heat is. Okay. When you're shivering in a room, what do you do in terms of warming up yourself, warming yourself up? So which channel are you working on right now? This is triple warmer channels. Right? So instinctively we know this. The body knows this. Okay. So we try to warm the triple warmer Qi to spread the heat. Okay. So each meridian has a specific energetical quality, a channel Qi, or a wave resonance. Because you can understand that a channel that deals with cold has a totally different energetical resonance than a channel that deals with heat. And the channel that deals with the energy resonance, because it's all energy, right, of dryness has a very different and distinct resonance or affinity to dampness, right? So basically we have these distinct wave resonances of energy which correspond to each channel. And the idea is this, that this wave resonance beats throughout the whole pathway of the channel, both the internal part and the external part of the channel. Okay, because it's just one channel. Tai-Yang is one channel. And if you understand this and you tap into the correct channel and the correct wave resonance, you will be able to create a profound movement of Qi, which will initiate a strong movement of Qi, which will help your patient in terms of pain and limitation right away. I mean, right away. okay, within seconds. Maybe now's the time. This is just, actually I'm avoiding this. No, normally you do it, I have like a set time for this, but I want to try to do it earlier today. Because right after lunch I don't want you to fall asleep. But let's take a look. This is a wonderful symbolic figure which says this. In the old cameras where we used to have film, not digital film, but real film, okay, the picture of the outer universe would be embedded in the inner body. Okay, so we have the inner climates of the body, or the inner climates of the internal organs. Okay, like we said, the spleen needs a certain degree of dampness. Let's give another good example. We have spleen and lung working together. The spleen, what does too much dryness do to the lungs? Yeah, it makes you cough, right? The lungs need moisture. When we breathe, if I were to breathe on this window, what would you see? You would see physiological dampness, right? Droplets. That's the environment of the lungs. So if you over-dry the lungs, that's not good. Okay? How did I get here? So this affinity to climates is quite specific, right? The lungs, breath with dampness, the taiyang with cold, and so on and so forth. So we are constantly interacting with these climates of the outer world. And basically we're trying to create this balanced picture or balanced climate environment in the inner body for each organ to function up in an optimal way. And if we take a look at this camera, we can see that the organs are the film, right? The good old film, the good old days of film. And we have, the camera has lenses, also has a shutter, right? So the lenses and the shutter, which actually determine which picture will be embedded on the organs, are the channels, are the meridians. The meridians, by opening, closing, moving, and not moving, regulating, basically govern the processes that eventually will create the climate and embed the picture of the outer universe in the inner body. So, in a way, going back to what we said before, so we have this web, we have this network that serves as a pathway for things to flow and move in, both physiological things and pathological entities or elements. And we have this channel which constantly gets information. It's too cold in here, okay? I need to put on a sweater. Okay, my taiyang system tells me that it's too cold. Okay, I get shivers, I get cold, I put on a sweater. Or, I just came from, what is it in Israel now? 30 something, 34. I walk out from an air-conditioned room, I start sweating on my back. Why? Because the pores are opening. This is information gathered from my taiyang system saying, it's too warm. Let's open the pores and let some heat and fluid out. So this is a system of conveying information. So we have this information of the outer world and inner world on the one hand. We have this network of pathway of the inner world. We have this embedding of the outer picture in the inner body. And this is basically the foundation of holistic medicine. When we say we're connected, we are connected. Okay? Okay. Now this is just one level of connection. Okay? Lori? You would agree, right? It's just, this is a very pragmatic and very substantial level of connection. Okay? It's a connection to the climates in terms of climates by name of heat and cold and so on. Of course, there's our spiritual connections. Okay? From constant flux of chi coming in from the Bawe, from the heaven, moving down from kidney 1, okay, and we have these energies as well. But we are connected. It's not just a cliche. Okay, it's very specific in the classics. Okay. If you want to read more, fascinating book by my guiding mentor, Dr. Wang Jui. This is Dr. Wang Jui in the field of white peony, Bai Shao, and he went taking herb classes. Bai Shao is the Chinese herb that nourishes blood and stops liver qi stagnation. This is a field of Bai Shao. This is back in 19 1999 or 2000, a long time ago. Okay, and this book was called Applied Channel Theory in TCM, written by Dr. Wang and Jason Robertson. Again, I don't know if you heard Jason. If you ever get a chance to hear Jason Robertson, run to see him. Anyone taking any Jason's class here? Yeah? Was he good?
Excellent.
Oh, yeah. He is. Okay, Jason is a wonderful guy. And like Dr. Wang, they're both unique because of three things. Wang was one of the most prominent practitioners of acupuncture in China, contemporary medicine of China. He was the head of a hospital. He was the head of the top journal of acupuncture research. He was the head of this committee of all the 5 big Nanjing, Beijing, Chengdu, Shanghai, all the universities. But he went back and studied the classical channel theory, which was missing. And he's a good teacher in terms of not all Chinese practitioners can teach Westerners very well. Dr. Wang can, and he was also very open with his knowledge. Again, he's like, spread the knowledge, don't hold the knowledge. Okay, so he's wonderful, and the book is wonderful. And the book is written this way too, and I think even the book's price is this way because it is a textbook, but I think it's not priced as one of these really expensive. I think it's like $60 or $64 for a textbook. It's a good price, and the reason is Dr. Wang said, "I want this spread out." So read the book. So let's do a short recap. Okay, so the channel system is a pillar of classical Chinese medicine. And the 6 qi are climates of external and the internal environments. Each meridian corresponds to a specific qi, and the channel may draw it in, may push it away, and regulate it. The meridian system implants the picture of the outer universe into the internal universe, and is the foundation of the holistic view. And this climate, which is a wave resonance, beats throughout the whole pathway. And tapping into it is what we're going to do next. Learn how to do that. So. It's time. So I want to volunteer. We're going to do a short demonstration. But let me tell you what I'm looking for. There's so many. Someone that has an old injury, years, based in trauma, either they a broken ankle years ago that still has range of motion pain and limitation, or a knee that they have had this problem for many, many years. And I think, yeah, what's your name?
Barbara.
Can you tell me what it is?
Broken femur 40 years ago.
Okay.
And my knee was in a caliper for a while, and then afterwards it was straight and was bent under anesthetic, and it's always been problematic since.
So the knee is problematic?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's one, okay, I think we'll do that also. Anyone else? Any other example? Yeah, what's your name?
Annie.
Annie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a 14+1-year-old knee, which was a skiing accident. When I was
Skiing accident?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cartilage, like a handle tear.
And where is your pain?
Right lateral.
Lateral, right lateral side. Okay, so we'll try to do both exams. So, and then of course the idea today is that you'll be able to practice on each other. So I will call Annie first, okay? And one of the key elements of the system is to be able to meanwhile, just sit down and relax and enjoy, like De Vere is telling us. You want to get an objective assessment of the pain and limitation as much as you can, because we really want to know that we're making progress. Okay, I'll show you later on. We use this system in the A&E department in the hospital that I work. We conducted a randomized control study. I'll show you main results. These results have been presented in Western A&E conferences all over Europe. And we really want to know that we're making progress. So the way to know that you're making progress is, again, is an objective assessment as you can initially. Okay. And again, we'll talk about that. So yeah, just take your shoes off. Yeah, take them both. All right, so your pain is on the right side, right?
Yeah.
What?
Round about that.
Lateral side,
Yeah.
okay?
Head of the fibula.
Right here, okay. And can you lift the other side? Okay, show me again exactly where it is. Okay. Right there, is that?
Yeah.
That's the surgery.
That's a scar.
That's a scar. So it's right here.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we're somewhere. We on the Shaoyang gallbladder channel. I'll have her stand up in a minute, so it'll be easier for you guys to see. Or the stomach channel. I'm not so sure. Is it here too, or is it just smack down here? Okay, it looks like it's right on the Shaoyang gallbladder channel. Now, in terms of, do you have constant pain, or do you have pain with certain movements, or
Certain movements.
which movement?
So if you know, sort of do something like that,
Yeah.
and then it gets to a certain point, and it usually grinds, and then sort of.
So
wants
you
to get
did you
away.
get pain right now when you did that?
No, not just now. But usually. I do.
Can you squat?
No.
How
No,
far
I
down?
won't.
How far down can you squat?
Um,
No, wait. No. Stand up. Give me your hand and squat as far as you can with both legs. Stop when it's painful. Okay. You want to take a picture of that one? We'll see the angle. Yeah. So I don't know. And any physios here? They're usually really good with assessment of angles.
Yeah, it's tight.
Yeah.
Can strong as well.
So you'd say it's what? How degrees of
Do we
movement?
move your ankle?
Right here. That's like what she has.
The knee. The knee.
Yeah.
She's about,
25.
yeah.
25. All right. And then it starts having pain.
Yeah.
Okay. So now a couple other questions. When you get that thing, and you got it right away, right? When you were hitting
yeah,
this,
usually.
is it pointed at a certain area? Is it spread? Is it radiating?
It's usually quite sharp, and it's usually quite localized, but then
Mhm.
it spreads a bit.
Okay. And would you say it responds to cold or heat or so on? Cold days,
I always feel better with warm.
but okay. So a nice warm water in the shower is nice. It feels nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And when do you feel it? Is it more like first thing when you wake up, or at the end of the day, or
It's usually with exercise and worse at the end of the day,
worse at the end of the day?
and worse if tired.
Worse at tired and worse at the end of the day. Okay. The reason I'm asking these questions is because they have a direct relevance to the Chinese different diagnosis of what this channel obstruction is, and we'll discuss channel obstruction in a minute, because we want to identify the type of obstruction that we have in the channel. Maybe it be blood stasis, maybe cold and blood stasis, and damp places, and heat, and so on and so forth. Okay. But we're just doing the example now, so I won't get too much into that. We don't have a pillow, do we? Let's bunch up something for you.
It'll be alright.
Yeah, because normally second half of the class I can't wear the first chair, so. Okay, so how are you going to do this so you can all see? Maybe the last rows can stand up, and then you can see. Basically, what we'll do now is we'll do a technique which is called bleeding technique on the last point, which is the Jingwell point of the channel. And so we said Shaoyang of the leg. Shaoyang of the leg is which channel? Gallbladder. Okay, so I'm hitting the last point of the gallbladder channel, which is the Jingwell point of the gallbladder, which is gallbladder what? 40. Yeah. All right. Let me pull out my gear. I had to bring all this stuff from Israel with the pain. Okay, so this is the stuff we're going to be using. Okay. They actually asked me to bring the treatment table as well, but seriously, I don't know if it was British humor or if it was right, but I think it was Kevin just joking, but so when we work with with bleeding, and we'll talk about alternatives to bleeding if you just can't do it, and I've heard can't do it many times, even here in England. I've taught this in England 3 or 4 times. And well, there's certain degrees of can't, So yeah, if you work in an NHS office, and they will never allow you to do. If you cannot do bleeding, we'll talk about what we do. There's always a solution. We'll talk about that later on. But let's just do the demonstration and flow with it. So people say bleeding is really painful. I say that if you do it really swiftly and quickly, it shouldn't be too. And you can also use, diabetics. Diabetics use these, and those also you can adjust the depth of them, and they're really fast. They go in and out, and if you do it in the right depth, it's not painful. Okay. So when we do bleeding, I asked for cotton balls, and they probably didn't remember to bring that, huh? How are we gonna do that?
It's something one of the stalls that have got cotton balls, I'm sure.
What's that?
One of the stalls will have.
Oh, yeah. The English Yeah, right. I asked for that and to make sure if they can run. Well, first thing we do is we massage and we squeeze the channel. What we're trying to do here by being the gym, and again, we'll discuss this in detail in a minute, we're trying to bring all this blood from the channel towards the end. Because sometimes when people have cold feet, it's a little bit difficult to so I'm massaging down the gallbladder channel all the way down to the tip, and
do you do that contrary to the normal flow of chi?
basically what's interesting me now is outward, from the channel out, and we'll discuss that in a minute. I want blood coming. Who's asking the question? Because I'm talking in the air. All right. What's your name?
Colin.
Colin. I want to pull out. Okay, I want the energetic direction to be from the limb outside. That's why I'm using. We'll talk about that matter, which is blood, to pull out. Okay. All right. We'll use tissue paper for the time. Later on, we'll need to get some cotton balls for you guys. This is the problem. I need this. All right. So, a little bit of alcohol, again, all the way down. And we use the regular Lancet needles, right? You can buy in any pharmacy. And I want you to exhale right now. Okay. And was it really bad?
No.
No. All right, so. Okay, so you can't really see this now, but later on we'll be practicing this. I'm pulling out really small drops between 8 to 12. And this also relates to the differential diagnosis. You know, during a menstrual cycle, you want to do less, or right after a menstrual cycle, or if you have severe blood deficiency, you want to do less. But for the second demonstration, we'll just do 8 drops right now. Okay? Now, the way the system works is I want to assess if there's any progress. So almost after every intervention, or any step or any stage of intervention that I do, I will try to assess if it had an effect or not. Okay? So I'll ask you to stand up again. And let's try to give me a hand. Yeah, try to squat. Alright, so we're seeing what? Do it again? When does the pain start?
About there.
Okay, so physio?
About 40.
About 40. What was it? It was 25? So about 40. So just by bleeding, okay, and we'll explain in a minute why. Yeah, you can lay it back down again. But just by bleeding, we're getting, this is an indication that we're going the right way. So from 25 to 40 in terms of percent, that's a good chunk. And this indicates to me that I'm on the right channel. Okay? All right, next. I'm just going to check the pulse for a minute because we want to do some underlying condition as well, just to support what we're doing to the channel. You see, Tom? You have some digestion issues? Regular?
Yeah, I'm all right, yes.
So basically now what I'm trying to do is create this wave of qi through the correct channel. We identify the Shaoyang gallbladder channel being the problem. But remember, Shaoyang channel is triple warmer gallbladder. It's just one channel, right? So we'll be working on triple warmer and gallbladder initially to see how we're doing. Okay? I'm going to look for some tender spots. That tender?
You're on the edge of it, yes.
That one? Yes. Okay. We're just palpating for tender spots around small intestine, triple warmer 3. And we'll look for one over here. And if one is not back, then I'm just going to use one of those don't bend, can't say anything, needles. Is that tender? Yeah. Okay. So can I ask you for
Oh, yes.
oh, she's here. You're always on the right.
Yeah, are you okay? You are?
Yeah,
Oh, right.
that's right. We got it. Thanks. So I'm just gonna bring next sheet. Okay, GV20. So basically, we'll talk a little bit later about that. So 10 minutes around here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is GV20. It's an excellent point for calming your patient down. Good for pain. Good for facilitating the connection to the heavens. Okay, we'll do triple 113 around here. Feel that?
Yeah, better.
Yeah.
It's still singing from where
Mm-hmm.
you are waiting.
And here, right? All right. Feel that? No?
No.
All right, let me know when you feel it. I can move it a little bit.
No, it's, yeah.
Feel it now?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you feel both of them?
yeah.
Would you feel both of them at the same time? Do you feel hand and foot?
Yeah.
All right. So can you slowly stand up again? Don't worry, we'll help you. Do it slow because you have GV20. We don't want you to get dizzy. All right, wait, sit before that. Are you okay? You're not dizzy.
No,
All right. So give me your hand again. This one. Let's squat again.
wow.
How much? About 50. Now,
It's compounded by the fact that she's internal rotating from her hip. So she'd get more if she went in a straight line.
right. So 50, okay, from 20 to 50. We didn't ask you about the pain. How much pain did you have on a scale from 1 to 10 when you started? When you did the movement?
Here,
Yeah. Here, right now.
not any at the moment.
So it's just limitation.
It's just limitation.
Okay, let's do it once again. The squat. All right. When was the last time you did that far?
Years ago.
Okay, years ago.
You
All right.
skiing now.
Yeah, yeah, skiing accidents do that. All right, you can lie down back here. Okay. So, you can see the presentation for you because I wanted to go on. You're gonna get a
I've
treatment.
already downloaded it on your phone.
You downloaded it on the phone.
Yeah, because
Oh,
then I
wow.
can see it.
That's amazing. Yeah, you can download it from look at that right away from. Okay, I'm just gonna do the second. Did you feel that? Did you say? We know when you. I want you to feel it a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So this is how fast acupuncture can and should work, okay? If you do your channels correct and you select them, feel that one? This one as well?
Yeah.
Not yet? Now?
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Which other points? Yeah. Yeah, I'll save them in. I just want to put them in first and let her get a treatment for like 25 minutes or so. Feel that?
Yes.
Right. So put PC6 on the right, liver 3 on the left, and on the left, and spleen 6 on the left as well. Okay. So, so basically, if you identify the correct channel and you follow this protocol that we'll be talking about step by step in a minute, you should be getting your results right away. Okay? Right away. Now, you could feel free to ask questions. I'll stop you if it takes too much time. Because then the questions start getting, how long does it last, and so on and so forth. But I can say, after the first treatment, it will last X, the second treatment 2X, and the third treatment 3X, and so on. And so it progresses as we go. It depends on the patient, it depends on the condition. But in general, this is what you're expecting to see. So from 20 to 50, so we've more than doubled range of motion within 3-4 minutes. Right? And you also see that with pain. So when you establish your pain scale, and we'll talk about that, you ask your patient to scale their pain, and you see that pain reducing in numbers fast. Okay, so we started with your treatment, let's say at 3:30. We'll take you to 5. We'll do 25 minutes. Is that okay for you? Yeah.
You just very quickly, in 2 or 3 sentences, recap what you've done.
Oh yeah, I'm good. So what I did is this. Again, this is just demonstration. We'll go step by step in a minute, but I'll just do that. So first of all, I identified the channel. Okay, I tried to identify the obstruction type from a Chinese perspective, called hot, damp, so on. I bled the Jingwell point, which is closest to the area of the pain, which I didn't mention yet, but I'm saying it right now. The closest Jingwell point, meaning this Shaoyang channel has 2 Jingwell points. One on the gallbladder and one on the triple walnut, because it's the same channel, right? But the closer one to the area of limitation is the foot. Okay, so you bleed the Jingwell point close to the area of the limitation. And then I needed GB20, and I needed triple walnut 3 on the left side and gallbladder 42 on the right side, which is basically the wave that we're learning how to create today. And for the underlying condition, I just did pericardium 6 liver 3 speed 6. Okay.
And why did you choose gallbladder 42?
I just palpated for tenderness because I didn't have time. Who's asking? Is that Johnny? Yeah, sounds like you, Johnny. Since I didn't have time to go into a thorough intake, so I just palpated. This was the most tender point. Okay. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about obstruction. Okay. Where there's obstruction, there is pain. Okay, the classic stuff. When the qi and blood are obstructed, that's when pain arises. So obstruction is not only creating pain, but it also means that the tissue clearance and tissue nourishment in that area are impaired. When an area is obstructed, it's not only creating, the reason it is creating pain, by the way, is the body is telling us something's wrong here, attend to this. And you should attend to this because if it's obstructed, then qi and blood are not flowing, then the nourishment in this area is impaired. You should attend to this. You should listen to this pain, okay? The pain is just a signal, or limitation is a signal. The area is shouting, I'm being malnourished, okay? So by relieving obstruction, you're not only reducing the pain, but you're also re-establishing the correct flow of qi and blood and the right nourishment for that area. That's a more important concept of pain. So that's obstruction. Now, it's not a very good lighting, but you can't see that. But basically we have this big mountain of rock here and this smiley British girl, I don't think you can see her, trying to push the mountain. I'll go try and push the rock. When blood is stagnant, qi won't move it. Okay, it's a very how do they say, extreme sentence. I wouldn't say qi won't move it, but the general idea is if you have matter stuck, it's very difficult to move matter with energy. So the way to counteract stuck matter is to move matter. Okay, by bleeding, you're moving matter, which is blood. Okay, after the blood stagnation is resolved or starts to move, it's much easier to move the qi. Okay, this is why we do the bleeding of the Jingwell points as the first thing. We go after the hardest thing first. Okay, so this matter-energy bond or connection is really important to comprehend. We want to first move the stagnation. This is why I was asking for these examples, because I wanted this old injury, because old injuries will always have a degree of stagnancy there. Okay, and once you bleed that, you start initiating this flow again. And we had 20% improvement after bleeding, and another 20% of improvement by moving the qi after removing the energy after removing the stagnation of matter. So the classics tell us a lot about the Jingwell points. Nanjing 68 tells us that they treat fullness below the heart. They tell us that they drain excess and dispel stagnation, disband obstruction and open clumps right here. Okay, and Jingwell points open stagnation. Okay, they do a bunch of other things. The really important point, because I remember we were saying that the spark of life, the potential of life, basically comes from this duality of polarities of heaven and earth, yin and yang. Okay, now Jingwell points, they stand anatomically smack down on this exchange from yin plane to yang plane. So they're extremely important points for the body. Okay, the flux and the movement and the change from yin to yang in the Jingwell points. So that's the exchange of yin and yang. They're the beginning of qi flow in this 5-shu theory that we discussed right here. Beginning of flow, okay, the well. They also clear heat, we'll discuss that later. Jingwell points activate the tendomuscular channel, which is completely relevant to what we're trying to do here. And they strongly move blood, drain excess, dispel stagnation, disband obstruction, and open clumps. So they have a strong function of opening and moving stagnation and obstruction. So the system is based on 3 stages. The first stage is what we call wave initiation, which is bleeding the Jingwell points to remove this stagnancy. Okay? So after we open the, what is it, cork? Is that the word? Yeah? We open the cork, or we open the, and we allow things to start stirring up. Okay? And then we, in terms of the technique, where I just mentioned, the bleeding is conducted by massaging the channel distally outwards. Okay, was it Colin? I was asking? Yeah, outwards. Squeeze qi and blood to the Jingwell point. And then you bleed the Jingwell point at the side of the meridian close to the condition. Like I just mentioned, the side of the channel, the tip or the end of the channel, which is close to the condition. We use 8 to 12 drops. We use caution with blood deficiency or menstrual cycle. And this is the technique. Oh, we already did that part. That was supposed to be a demonstration. So, I think what we'll do. Wait, how are we doing? What's the schedule for today? How are we supposed to do this? We're taking a break at what?
4.
And then?
4 to 4:30.
4 to 4:30, and then, yes, there's no point in starting the practice now. So we'll go on with the slides until 4, and we'll come back, we'll do a first practice. Yeah, that's how we'll do it. Okay. Let's talk about distal needling for a minute, okay? And we have you till 5 to 4. So, is this the Grand Canyon? Any Americans? So the idea here is we're trying to look to the horizon. And normally when I teach this, I ask for a class where I can, well, I won't get to that in a minute. Okay, so we have this classroom right there, right? And we're teaching in class. A bunch of people come in, a lot of people, almost as much as you are here, okay? And what happens to the chi after a while, to the energy? Yeah, it gets a bit. We're all using the air. We're all using the air. We're all emitting CO2. So it gets a bit congested in the air, right? So we can do 2 things, right? We can either do in the old days we used to turn on the fan. Today we just we turn on the air conditioning. But by doing that, what we do is we may be just steering the evil wind or the bad chi, okay? Or not. Another approach would be, look at the sides of the slides, we could open a window on one side, right there, and we can open a door on the other side. And normally I ask for a class when I can do that because it's a wonderful way to demonstrate. If we would open that window over there and this door right here, you would immediately see this or feel this, especially people sitting here. Air comes in. Okay, the air comes in and the air comes through the room and flows out the other side. And the idea is we want to move chi through the area rather than to the area. Because oftentimes what happens when you have this long-term stagnancy, if you just do local needling, you're bringing a lot of attention of the, well, acupuncture works by facilitating our own natural healing ability and response. Okay? That's how acupuncture works. Right? Needles, there's no material on the needles. Needles are just like, I call them signposts or traffic lights, and you signal to the body, you can do this, and so that you suggest, basically, with a lot of respect, I would suggest that you try this. Okay? And the more accurate your suggestions are, the better the results are. But basically, we're facilitating healing responses. Now, if this area has been congested for such a long time, 20 years is it, right? 40 years. 40 years. So that's 40 years, double improvement in 3 minutes, right? Think about that. And the reason is because this stagnant chi has been longing to get out of there for such a long time. Okay? If we just stick needles there, you're bringing more attention to that area. This area needs to open a door and a window. Okay? So the whole idea is to move chi through rather than to the affected area. So this is why we do distal needling at this stage. By the way, we do local needlings, but the initial stage or the first 2/3 of a treatment series, I always do only distal needling, no local needling. Okay? In fact, I use local needling to bring chi to a malnourished area, to tonify the area, the affected tissue that has been malnourished for years. But initially, who was that? Jim, was that you? Camping last week? Yeah. Imagine you go out camping last week like Jim Boyer's a tough guy. No tents, no sleeping bags, no nothing, right? Okay. And so you go on the strip, 3 days, you get a cut, okay? And you forgot your first aid kit at home, okay? But you still have 2 days to walk, and your cut gets infected. So as you come home, or as you come to a clinic, what's the first thing they do with this infected area? You clean it, okay? You don't put a bandage on it right away. You need to clean the obstruction, okay? You need to clear the obstruction first, or the infection first, and then you put the antibiotics and and then you nourish it, okay? So first disperse, then nourish. Same here, okay? This area has been affected for a long time. The first thing you want to do is relieve stagnancy, okay? Re-establish the movement and flow, and then attend to the deficiencies below, okay? So, oh, look at that. Right knee, just our case, right? So, in the case of, just look at this last example before you leave. So if you have this, actually it's this is kind of off. The channel should be here because we're saying right. No, we said medial. Oh, this is a medial, right? Yeah, medial is there. Pain on the liver channel. Sorry, not the example. Okay. So if you come and if you do local needling, do you remember we talked about channel chi versus organ chi? We're trying to harness channel chi and create a movement. If you do local needling, you just harness and affect this piece of channel chi. However, if you bleed the Jingwell point, in this case it's liver 1, you do liver 3 here and PC6, which is the same channel, it's the Juayan channel. Okay? You create this wave, and you get this leverage of energy flow, and you're using a lot more of this channel chi. Okay? This is why the effect is so immediate and so profound. Okay? Well, we'll talk about the technique. Yeah, we'll talk about technique in a minute. So basically what we're trying to achieve is this I got for my kids in this example, okay? We're trying to achieve this whiplash analogy effect, okay? Of moving the chi strongly through the channel. Okay. So recap. When blood is stagnant, chi won't move it. So the action would be bleeding the Jing well for removing stagnancy. And I call that wave initiation. Okay? Initiating a wave. Next, each meridian has a specific energetical wave resonance or wave quality. The action would be to tap into the correct channel by identifying the correct channel, like we did. Okay? And activate the whole channel chi And this I call wave propagation. So wave initiation will be bleeding the Jingwell to remove stagnancy. Wave propagation will be needling the channel like we did here with Sanjiao 3 and Gallbladder 42. And then we want to assess the effect of what we're doing. Okay? And we're looking for this big wave effect. So in a nutshell, meridian wave acupuncture talks about wave initiation by beating the Jingwell points, removing stagnancy, wave propagation, needling, and affecting the whole channel, and checking the wave effect. Okay, so why is this stuff so effective? Well, like I said, acupuncture works by signaling to the body to activate specific healing responses. And if you're accurate with your signals, you're accurate and you're profound with your results. So by identifying the correct channel, okay, you're getting more accurate. The use of Jingwell points but for the wave initiation, like I said, Jingwell points are really profound points for all the reasons that we mentioned before. The yin yang exchange, the start of the flow with the 5 shu, opening of the obstruction, the clumps. And then we're using the distal needling and activating the whole channel. So when we do all of this together, we're looking for this profound effect. Let me just show you quickly. This is the results of the randomized controlled study that we completed 2 years ago in the Suffolk Medical Hospital. Until 2 years ago, I was the founder and I was heading a research institute inside the hospital where we were doing clinical trials to assess different modalities of integrated medicine. Integrated medicine is very strong in Israel, and our hospital, it's a leading hospital, started 25 years ago. Tomorrow I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing there. We have a panel, discussion panel at the end of the day. But this randomized controlled study was assessing, we call them ED, you guys call them A&E, right? Accident and emergency. Yeah. Treatment of back and neck pain, acute back and neck pain in the ER. By the way, the results of this study were presented in conferences, in Western emergency medicine conferences in Nice, by the head of the ED department. I presented this in Berlin, and we also presented that in the European Conference of Integrated Medicine in Florence, Italy. And should be published within the next 6 months. So basically we had three groups. We had to establish a protocol that would not interfere with the emergency department routine. So it was an add-on protocol. So in addition to the medication, how else can you guys contribute to our patients? Because the majority of the patients that come into the orthopedic ER, about 70% of them go home at the same day, and they leave with a lot of pain. So they have the ER saying, okay, I'm discharging all these people out. They're suffering. Can you guys help them? All I'm asking, and scientifically this was a very simple question. Can you help these patients that come into the ED leave feeling a little bit better? Not more than that. I mean, it's not 2-year follow-up, nothing like that. Just a very practical question. Okay? And so we had 3 groups. We had everybody receive, all 3 groups received, by the way, we were aiming for 90 patients. We stopped at 67 patients because the results were so profound that we had the statistical power to stop after 67. All 3 groups received medication. So they had an assessment by the orthopedic physician. The VAST score from 1 to 10 was taken. Range of movement was taken. Of course, they were getting X-ray if they needed. And then they got meds, conventional meds of the ER. And then 45 minutes after that, they were assessed again for the medication effect, and then they got a treatment, which was either no acupuncture, which is resting for 25 minutes, mock sham acupuncture, which we used by, I'll do 3 quick, the inclusion criteria, meaning to enter the study, you had to have patients that have never had acupuncture before, which limited, it took us ages to get that, because everybody in Israel knows what acupuncture is. So was a mistake. But anyway, the idea was the patient that has never experienced acupuncture, probably be easier to fool them with a mock sham stimulation. So they would lie on their side, and the practitioner would come back and palpate for the air. It was painful. And then they would open the needles in front of the patient. The patient see the needle, go back, discard the needles, take only the empty guide tube, tape the empty guide tube to the painful area, connect an electrical stimulator to the empty guide tube, bring the stimulator in front of the patient, turn it off, it would beep and make sounds. Of course, it does nothing, right? And the practitioner said, the patient who has never had this before are sure that, and we're asking them, can you feel it, can you feel it? And they say, oh yeah, now I feel it. It's amazing, right? So that was the mock sham placebo. And then real acupuncture was this system that we're talking about here. And you can see the results in terms of pain management. You see that drugs reduce medication by about 14-15%. No acupuncture by additional 6.8%. Placebo working better than no acupuncture, about 8.3%, and the real acupuncture another 25%. So the overall pain reduction here was 40%, which is unprecedented in the ER for this condition. And we'll be taking your needles out in a second. You can actually see the group scores here. This is the 3 group scores. This is how they enter. The red ones right here is the they start at 8, they go down to 6.5 with the meds, and to 3.9. So above 50% during the treatment. We were also checking mobility, and you can see spinal flexion increasing from here to almost 60 degrees with the real acupuncture group. And we checked a whole bunch of other stuff. We don't have the time to get into that. But in general, the most important thing for us was after we completed the study, it took a while, it took about a year, but now we're the first hospital in Israel that has paid staff acupuncturists inside the ER. So we have like 8 shifts during the week when there's an acupuncturist inside the orthopedic ER doing this kind of acupuncture. So to end this, I will take a breath, we'll pull your needles out. Okay, I'm just going to ask you if you feel these 2 again.
Yeah.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Can you bend them again a little bit this way? All right, bring it back again, because lying down flat like that is not the best thing for the knee. Maybe one more time. Leave it here. Okay. Can you feel both of these? Same time?
Yeah.
Slowly get up and sit first, okay? Okay, make sure you're not dizzy. We'll try to assess and see what's going on now. Give me a hand. No. So, try squat.
Wow.
Okay, take a look again.
Can you just roll out your trouser?
There you go. Yeah. Sorry.
Set it.
It's the physio side. Yes, lovely.
Not sure we'll do that
Oh.
again.
Okay, it's difficult. Yeah.
For me to hold your
I can't do sideways as well.
All right, how much would that be?
It's considerably more than I've done it for years and years and years.
Yeah, it's close, it's 80, almost 90. All right, welcome. All right, so we'll break now, and when you come back.